Using Sanborn Maps in Urban Research. This tutorial will show how to use Sanborn Maps for urban research, urban planning, historic preservation, and archival identification. Sanborn maps are vintage fire insurance maps. Daniel Sanborn was a surveyor who began making fire insurance maps in 1866. Early success led him to found his own company in 1867, still in business today. Their aim was to survey every city and town in America. Most maps are bound in 100-page volumes with 21-inch by 25-inch pages, scaled 50 feet to 1 inch. Their period of significance begins in the 1880s and extends to the 1950s. This shows the Sanborn Map Collection at the San Jose, California Public Library. Note both their large size and unique appearance that comes from years of updates pasted onto each page. These maps contain unique information about the built environment not often found in other sources. This information can include building addresses, building height, building footprints, street name changes, number of stories per building, building construction materials, building use, and right-of-way. Some cities are fortunate and have kept their old documents. However, many cities have not. Information gets lost, documents get thrown away or stolen, and in many cases, Sanborn maps are the only source of information for structures that no longer exist. To use a Sanborn map, you will need access to a collection, either in person or online. You will need the approximate address of the building or property you are researching. This can be found in various directories, newspapers, other print sources, online resources, and sometimes best guess. Lastly, you will need to know the time period you are looking for. In historic preservation, this is often called period of significance, and a period of significance can be a building construction date, remodel date, demolition date, the date of a historic event that happened in the building's life, or a historic event that happened in the building's vicinity. This is one workflow that you can use with Sanborn maps, although it is not the only valid one. First, start with your known data. This may be an address, this may be a reference to an address, this may be an image in an archive that you're trying to locate, or it may be another surviving object that you are trying to contextualize. In any case, once you have an address, research it. Vet it with a map program of choice to see if the information in your data coincides with the information that you can find from the address itself. If they match, you're good. If they don't match, don't be afraid, carry on. First, note your surroundings. Look for surrounding streets, look for surrounding landmarks, or anything that you might need to use to match up. Then, select the relevant Sanborn map. Sometimes you will have a finding aid, sometimes you will not. When you have the relevant Sanborn map, go to the appropriate volume and sheet. Note Sanborn maps use the term sheet, not pages. Otherwise, it may be confusing. When you have the correct map and sheet open, compare that with your known data and see if you have a match. In some cases, you will be fortunate and find it on the first try. In other cases, it may take multiple goes. Now, I would like to show you some online resources for Sanborn maps. First off, Wikipedia. Wikipedia has an entry for the Sanborns, and it talks about the company with a description, their history, and modern uses. It has references and further resources. It has a link to ProQuest digital Sanborn maps, as well as links to a variety of Sanborns available online. Some are cities, some are states. As mentioned earlier, the Sanborn Company is still in existence, and you can contact them directly if you want to get copies of some of their maps. The Library of Congress has a collection of 15 states of Sanborn maps. On their website for the map collection, it has an introduction, which gives a broader and more in-depth history of the company than Wikipedia. It also provides a map key. Do note that the key is in color. The original Sanborns are multicolored and color-coded. The ProQuest ones, unfortunately, are not. However, ProQuest's ease of accessibility makes up for it, in my opinion. Historical Information Gatherers has their own Sanborn Map Interpretation site. It uses information from the 1940 and 1953 editions of the map. These can be read online or downloaded as a PDF. They provide a map key as well, and they provide numerous examples from Sanborn maps on how to interpret all of the data within them, both for mercantile, other commercial, and residential properties. For most people's purposes, this is more information than they will need, but it is nice to know. The University of California Library at Berkeley has a digital Sanborn portal. They also have a link to the 1905 San Francisco Sanborn map. This is particularly significant as it documents the city 1 year before most of the city burnt up in the great 1906 earthquake and fire. Berkeley also has a glossary of abbreviations and obscure terminology available as a PDF. This can be useful for researchers who are unfamiliar with certain archaic terms. Remember, the Sanborns were last reprinted 60-something years ago. People today are probably not going to be familiar with terms like ME for Methodist Episcopal or IOOF for the International Order of Oddfellows. For my examples, I will be using the Sanborn maps available from the Los Angeles Public Library website. The library also has an index of Sanborn maps for Los Angeles. I will also be using the LA Public Library's city directory website at riscarta.lapl.org, and I will be using Google Maps. Example number 1, corroborating a known address. This photograph comes from the Meld LA archive, and it shows a photograph of a family standing in front of a house. You can see that the building is 1 story. It has a bay window, a front porch, and there's probably a building behind or adjacent to it. The back of the image says Elliott's, 1316 Elwood, LA, and then lists the members of the family. As historians know, information on photographs is not always as accurate as we would like, so let's corroborate our information to make sure that this is correct. First, I go on Google Maps. 1360 Elwood Street in LA is underneath the 10 freeway. So much for that. Next, we can go on the city directories. City directories are basically a combination of telephone book, business directory, people book, and general information guide from the 1880s until about World War II, when they got replaced by telephone directories. They're a wonderful snapshot of historical LA stuff. There are also city directories for many other cities, and they can be very useful. The city directory for 1915 lists Gordon McNutt at 1316 Elwood. That's not the name we are looking for, so we keep looking. The 1906 directory has A.L. Elliott at 1316 Elwood. We have the right address and we have the right name. Good. For further information, we can check the Sanborn map and see if the house looks right. So to go here, you would go to the Sanborn Fire Insurance Atlases on LAPL. Currently, it is hard to find from the LAPL homepage due to the COVID-19 virus epidemic. However, if you Google search Sanborn Maps LAPL, you will find the site. Scroll down. It lists our street index PDF. It lists an index PDF tied to the Thomas Guide, a now out of print famous Southern California map guide. But what I really want is this. Click on Sanborn Maps 1867 to 1970. It wants your Los Angeles Public Library number and PIN. Log in. click on Browse and Explore, select State, select City. Do note that when a city and county have the same name, you want to make sure that you're picking the right one. In the case of Los Angeles, you can pick Los Angeles City or Los Angeles County. I want City. Then select Date. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to choose from. These show the different surveys that Sanborn made of Los Angeles through its development. I will pick 1906 because that's the same year as the directory I found the family in. Consulting the street index, it already told me that 1316 Elwood is in Volume 2, Sheet 216. I click Volume 2 on the menu. Sheet 216. There is our street. The cross streets are the same. Here it's 9th. In the modern map it's Olympic, but 14th is still the same. And here is Elwood. There's 1316. It shows a D for dwelling, which means a single or two-family residence. The little number 1 that looks like a hash mark tells me it's a one-story building, as is most other stuff on the block. It has what could be the bay window, and it has a front porch, as shown by the dotted line. Comparing that to our photo, oh, and it also has a building in the back. Comparing that to our photo, I feel confident saying that that is 1316 Elwood. Example number 2, which address? What do you do when you've got too many addresses to look up? This postcard comes from the same collection and says California home of A. Duperreau. Looking in the city directories, we found that Adolphe Duperreau had 3 LA addresses: 434 South Lake Street, 2322 West 9th Street, and 102 North Benton Way. Consulting Google Maps showed there was nothing at any of the addresses that remotely resembled this building today. So either our information is incorrect or the buildings have been demolished. So we'll check in Sanborn. But our object tells us that he was in a 2-story house. It looks square or square-ish. There is a bay window on the side wall, a front porch on one corner, a front projection in the center, a second-story bay window on the other corner, and it's next door to another 2-story building. Let's go digging. I'll start with our first address, 434 South Lake Street, and the index told me that the 434 South Lake is in Volume 1, Sheet 18. There's Volume 1. Sheet 18, and here is Lake Street. 430 and 4. It's half off the page. So we'll go one page over to sheet 17. There's Lake. We're missing a number. Well, it's next to 438 and 442 and 448. They seem to go up by 4s, so this is likely 434. Let's take a look. It's probably 2-story, but it tells me that the building next door is 2-story. It's square-ish, There is a stick out on the right side. There is another projection on the front. And there is a bay window shape projection on the corner opposite the porch. Comparing it to our house, probably a good match. Maybe not perfect, but probably. Now, what and where is this? This is another postcard from the same collection. There was no useful information on the back side to help us identify it. So, we'll look at what we have. It looks like it could be a church. It's vaguely Gothic. That may be a cross on top. And I think it is built on a corner. And it has a tower. Zooming in on this, we can tell that there's writing on it. And looking at it enlarged again with some unsharp masking, it looks like Edsti Uchi Baptisten Kirch. So, we'll look through our city directories. The word that makes, wrong place to search. The word that is probably best to use will be Baptisten. Looking in the 1906 directory, we have one hit. Deutsche Baptistenkirche. That could be Deutsche. It's possible. Let's take a look. Okay, 1815 und Myrtle. Google Translate tells me that that is the corner of 15th Street and Myrtle Avenue. Looking in our directory, looking in our index again, that tells me that 15th and Myrtle would be Volume 1A, Sheets 20A and 24A. So back to Sanborn. Oh, but there's no Volume 1A. We'll have to check other dates. That's just its own. Let's look at this one. Aha, there's Volume 1A. Incidentally, LA is easy because it has an index that's independent of the Sanborn maps itself. In many other cases, you will not have that, and you will have to consult the index sheets on each individual map volume. You can also consult the index maps that are towards the beginning of each volume, where they will have the city laid out in grids. Anyway, it told me Volume 1A, Sheets 20A and 24A. There's 20A. Myrtle. Pico. Ah, there's 15th. Oh, and look at that. 15th Street Baptist Church. It tells me it's 18 by 25, I think. It's got what must be the corner tower, which is 3 stories. Otherwise, it's got 2-story and 1-story parts. And it tells me that it's got a furnace and electric light. The building shape looks pretty close. So, now we know. That is the former German Baptist Church, now the 15th Street Baptist Church on 15th and Myrtle in LA. A site visit told me that it's also right off the 10 freeway in a neighborhood that has no churches or houses. Here are my references and resources. By all means, feel free to use them for your own research. In this tutorial, I gave a short overview of how Sanborn maps may be used for urban research, urban planning, historic preservation, and archival material identification. I use multiple online sources, including libraries, ProQuest, city directories, and Google Maps. I hope you enjoyed this presentation, and I wish you the best of luck in your own research.